Hello everybody and welcome. Today is my Christmas tech gift guide, and the theme today is gonna be PCs. So I'll be giving you guys some PC part lists for 4 different price ranges. $500 for this simple gaming PC for maximum performance, about $1,000 for you to have a bit more gaming performance, of course, $1,600, which is even more high-end, and finally the last build I'll be talking about is talking to be over $2,500 for the most high-end, reasonably high-end build for whoever is looking into building a workstation grade but also gaming capable PC. So let's head right into it. By the way, subscribe because there are a few more days to Christmas and this will be a daily series. So there'll be one more video tomorrow. I haven't decided what theme it is, but do subscribe. I mean, just subscribe, you know, it makes me feel nice, do something good. Alright, let's start off with the first list. This is the general list, you can see that, okay, and it's $500. And let's go into each part individually. Let's start off with the CPU. By the way, I'm using PC part because your prices may be slightly different depending on what retailer you use, NCIX, Newegg, Amazon, etc. First off, I'll for the budget CPU, $500 PC, I shall go older generation with the i3-4160. Now this is quite a simple reason why I decided to downgrade to Haswell, because in terms of performance difference, you're not going to see much of a performance difference, and for the price of a Pentium, you can get an i3 in Haswell, which has the hyper-thread cores, which usually is recognized as hyper-thread as 4 cores in games, so it's definitely beneficial for games, especially those that need you to have 4 cores to play. So that's definitely a good CPU. It's 3.6 gigahertz, has great single core performance, and is very good. Now many people may suggest the Athlon X4 860K or the 880K or the 870K, but that needs overclocking to be competitive, and overclocking needs a cooler, or at least spending more money for the AMD Rife, the special box cooler, and also requires a better motherboard in the form of like an AMD FM2 88X motherboard, which are a bit more expensive than usual. And another reason why I went Haswell is because if you bought Skylake, you have to pay for DDR4, and for a budget build that just doesn't work. Now many people will be like, oh, I want that quad core. So it's really up to you. You can of course consider the Athlon, but generally because of the heat, it's older, and the lack of decent single core performance relative to Intel, I still recommend the i3. It's still a great option, especially if you want games, if you are going to run games or apps that require more cores over better single cores, but most apps do run off better single cores, so the i3 I would recommend. Let's move on to the motherboard. I went and picked the cheapest H81 motherboard I could find. This one's micro ATX from MSI, has everything you need and nothing else. This is a $500 build. It's supposed to be cheap, and that's the point. One PCIe 3.0 slot and 2 RAM slots, and that's about it. You can put your CPU in it and connect your drives to it. That's all you need, and that's all you're gonna get. So this is the H81M P33 from MSI. So yeah, good reviews. You can't really mess up with an MSI motherboard, they're a good brand. And for RAM, I went and picked the cheapest 8GB single stick RAM, because you may want to upgrade your system in the future with another stick of 8GB, but maybe if you're upgrading the system, you'll be changing to DDR4 platform, so you may not want to worry about that much and get dual channel. But I predict 4 years down the line, i5 4690Ks and i7 4790Ks, they're going to become super cheap. Not the K, but any i5 and i7 from Haswell is going to become quite much cheaper, and they're still going to perform pretty well, because CPU performance increase has been marginal at best each generation. I mean, today Sandy Bridge is still a great CPU generation for gaming, and it's definitely not underpowered, and won't bottleneck most GPUs. So if you follow that trend that it can last about about 6 years, 6 to 8 years in terms of performance, in terms of if you're looking at high-end CPUs, if you upgrade to a high-end Haswell down the line, you can still remain competent in many different games. So yeah, upgradability is still possible. Okay, for storage, I'm going cheap. 500 gigs of storage from WD Blue. It's a great drive. It's 7,200 RPM, which is really important actually. 5,400 RPM difference between 7,200 and 5,400 is actually pretty noticeable. Not as noticeable as between a hard drive and SSD, but it definitely gives an improvement. And because we're not buying an SSD in the first place, we're gonna buy a decent hard drive. Of course, you can go and opt for 120 gig or 240 gig SSD now, and in the future upgrade with another hard drive so that you can have fast OS and games and apps. But frankly, I don't care, because I'm not one to upgrade storage. It's a bit of trouble. Moving on, GPU. Now this is where I went pretty decent. So if I've gotten an Athlon, I believe it'll probably have bottlenecked this 1060. The i3 should still do decently in most games with this 1060. Of course not Arma or like City Skylines where CPU is important, extremely important, but in most games the 1060 is going to be able to give you great performance and carry you throughout many games with high frame rates. In fact, if you get a 6 gig card, if you want to pay a bit more, you can definitely upgrade to a 6 gig 1060 or an 8 gig 480. I chose the 1060 because it's small. It doesn't matter that it's small because it's the cheapest on the list, but buy the cheapest 480 or 1060 from a decent brand that you can find and you should be set. Yeah, that's how I picked this card. 480 is a good card as well. If you can afford 6 gigs or 8 gigs of the GTX and the AMD alternate, it's a great choice. So just look at the prices of where you're shopping from and get the cheapest, because all of these cards will let you down, especially if with a budget rate you're probably gonna be playing on 1080p, so it's not gonna be an issue. For case, I went a bit more fancy with the Bitfinex Comrade. It's a very good looking case. It looks like the old iMac G4, and there's this crazy price for NCIX US. I don't even know if this is legit, but it's a good case. So if you can get it cheap, get it cheap. If you cannot get it cheap like this price, you can definitely check out cases such as the Source 210. That's pretty decent. You can check out cases such as Source 210, Fractal Core 1000. That's really good. I use a Core 3000. It's a great case, and the 2000 will be good as well. Fractal Core gets my recommendation because it's quite solid built and looks simple, looks clean, which is my general preference when it comes to cases. Just look around. Most cases should be fine as long as you don't get a wonky one, and avoid the CM Elite series of cases because it's just pure crap, in my opinion. Yeah, it's actually on sale, so it's definitely good. Okay, power supply. Just went for the cheapest 80 plus power supply. This one's from EVGA, which is good brand, and this one has a million rebate from this website, and it's pretty cheap. It's 430 watts, which is definitely sufficient. It's a good power supply from a good brand, and it's going to be enough to power the parts that I've chose, because the i3 is low power, the GPU is low power, so that's all you need to know. Let's move on to the more high-end build. This one reaches about $1,000 and provides a bit more performance. And let's go in depth into the parts now. Now for the CPU, I actually recently built a PC that's extremely similar to this. For the CPU, I'll go for the i5 6500 from Intel. Obviously, this is a 3.2 GHz quad-core processor with a decent turbo boost clock to I think 3.6 GHz. It's an upgrade from the 6400, which is kind of media core, to be honest. And if you can get a motherboard, if you're willing to look for a motherboard that supports base clock overclocking, you can actually boost it up to 3.3, 3.4, because new CPUs nowadays, they're quite stable with base clock overclockings still. In fact, I'm using a Pentium G3058 and my base clock is 103 megahertz, which is insanely high apparently, 3% overclock. So do look into base clock overclocking if you really want to mess with overclocking but don't really want to invest in a K series CPU or a Z motherboard. So yeah. Okay, for the motherboard, I chose this MSI H110 Pro VD. It's cheap, it's good, it's micro ATX and it works, so that's all you really need to know. It's got all the basics, this guy says. It's gonna be easy to build. MSI, you can't really fail. I've recommended countless MSI motherboards to my friends, so there's nothing wrong with the motherboards because none of them have failed. So I have confidence in this brand, but of course Asus, Gigabyte, EVGA and all the other brands have great recommendations as well. Just decide and look at some reviews, see if the features you want are there, and look around at the price range. I would recommend not going for the most expensive, fanciest, flashiest motherboard because there's no performance difference, especially if you're building a more budget oriented rig like $1,000, $500, $600. So that's what you should look out for. Features you need and ease of use, compatibility, and as low a price as possible. There's no point paying extra for bells and whistles that you don't need in a performance oriented rig especially. G-Skill Ripjaws 5, this 16 gig kit. I recommend a 16 gig kit. Okay, I'm sorry about the background noise, that's from my garden. There are a lot of toads there, frogs and toads. It's extremely annoying. But back to the RAM. G-Skill Ripjaws 5 is a DDR4 RAM. They're a reliable brand, great brand. I use their RAM, it's good. 2x8 gigs. Why did I choose 16 gigs in a not that a high end of a PC? Because I would love using that RAM. And when you have a quad core, you can, with 16 gigs, you can definitely meddle in some video editing or some more heavy multi-core workloads. 16 gigs will definitely help that out. And you can do some streaming, or you can just open a lot of Google Chrome tabs. This is with 8 gigs though, so it's not too bad. My computer isn't lagging. Okay, the ADATA Premier SP550 240 gig SSD. That's a pretty decent SSD. There are many other models out there from Kingston, SanDisk, Samsung. Just get a cheap 240 gig SSD at this price range. You can put your OS and your main games on it, and maybe use it as a scratch drive if you are trying to do some video work. And it will definitely not let you down because it's ADATA is a good brand, so you can check that out. Many other models, as I have said earlier, so many other models, but you can check this one out because it's cheap right now according to PC Part Picker. I use this website a lot. It's a good website to check for compatibility as well. So yeah, moving on, let's move to storage. I'm gonna go for 1TB Seagate Barracuda hard drive because this is cheap. You can definitely upgrade to a 2TB hard drive because why not, especially if you're considering doing some video work, and this 1TB drive may not be sufficient. But Barracuda is a good brand. I have one Barracuda and a WD Blue in my computer. Both of them run seamlessly, run smoothly, run quickly, and they work well. So yeah. GPU wise, I went for the GTX 1070 8GB WindForce OC video card because it's cheapest 1070 I could find. And sorry about that, my USB drive just connected. It's the cheapest 1070 I could find on PC Part Picker because of but there's extra shipping here, so that's a bit of an issue. WindForce is a good series of coolers. I don't know why they dropped from the triple cooler because that looked great, but it definitely not let you down. It's a good brand with a good GPU in it, so it's gonna give you amazing performance. Now for case, I decided to pick the Corsair series, Carbide series 88R MATX mid-tower case. This is a compact case that is extremely simple to build in and look at. It's very good looking, it's clean. It kind of resembles a Fractal Core series, but Corsair, this was cheaper than the Core. This was a bit more high-end feeling than the Core. So I picked this. I have felt this case personally. I've held it in my hand because I've been building PCs for friends, and I was like, this is pretty good, and I actually bought it for my friend. And it turns out it's really not bad. Easy cable management. There's a lot of space behind the motherboard, and with that bulge on the side panel, and definitely it's a good case to use. Power supply, EVGA once again takes the crown with this 500 watt 80 plus bronze power supply. That's more than enough to power the whole damn system. It's got nice cables, it's reliable, it's safe, and that's important, and that's it. That's all you need to know, because it's a good PC, that's it. It's a good, reliable, low-end PSU for the money. I recommended this to many other friends, and they have agreed. It's reliable, and it's quite quiet. And I decided to throw in a ASUS DVD/CD writer, because I could. There are $50 left in the budget, by the way, so that you can actually install, you can actually choose whatever you want to add. So you can get a more high-end GPU, so because if you're looking for a $1,000 build, you can get a more high-end GPU cooler if you think you want that, or a nicer looking case, bigger SSD maybe, more hard drive storage, better motherboard features, maybe even more RAM if you're into that. Get rid of this and buy other stuff like better power supply for upgradability, like for SLI, or CPU cooler for better silence. So that's what I recommend, and that's why I added a bunch of extra stuff to my price list. Let's move on to the bit more high-end price list here. This is the rather future-proof, extremely upgradable, extremely powerful PC build recommendation. So this is $1,600. I want that 1598, and yeah, it works. It's really good. Let's get straight into the parts now in detail. Let's start off with the CPU, the i5-6600K. This is a 3.5 GHz quad-core processor. Insanely good performance, by the way. And it's pretty. It's a really pretty motherboard. Because not pretty motherboard, pretty CPU. It works. I don't know what I can say about it. It's overclockable. It provides great single core performance. Quad core. It's quad core as well, so it's gonna be able to run your games extremely well, and you can meddle in a bit of video editing, streaming with those 4 cores. I'm sorry if I'm slurring my words a little bit today because I'm quite tired. If you can't tell, it's 1:19 a.m. So $200+, great CPU, overclockable, so even when the new AMD GPU comes out or the new nvidia GPU comes out, it's still going to be able to keep up, and you won't get a bottleneck, which is definitely going to help the future-proofness, and it's going to save you money in the future. But of course, there's no point investing that much in how future-proof your system is, because sooner or later it's going to go obsolete pretty quickly, because technology actually improves quite quickly. Why am I rambling on and on? I don't know. Is it because of the YouTube algorithm that allows for longer videos to get better view rates? I don't know as well. But good CPU. For overclocking, you're definitely needing a CPU cooler. Many people will recommend a Hyper 212, but this CryoRig H7 has insane reviews. A lot of people have reviewed the CryoRig H7 and said it's great CPU cooler, and it's in black. It's not in an ugly silver color without anything. So this actually looks clean. It looks sleek. It performs extremely well to many reviews. In fact, it defeats the 212 pretty darn well. But it's quite a big and heavy motherboard, so why did I say motherboard? Big and heavy cooler, so it may interfere with the motherboard RAM slots. So that's something you can look out for. So for motherboard, I went with the MSI Z170A SLI Plus because I like that clean, all-out black motherboard look. You can definitely look at the SLI Crate Edition or the ASUS Z170A. Basically just a cheap motherboard that supports SLI, because you don't need to spend too much. You just need the Z178 chipset. So long as it doesn't have like a green PCB and looks completely ugly, it should be fine, I'm quite sure. And most motherboard manufacturers nowadays that you can find on PC Part Picker especially are good brands. So MSI, Asus, Gigabyte, EVGA, the list goes on. And yeah, that's pretty much what I can say. Good motherboard, good reviews, good features, gonna help us overclock well, and gonna help you SLI well. Speaking of motherboard, why did I say speaking of? There's no need for a segue. I'm gonna choose for RAM. I'm gonna choose the same kit, 16 gigs of 2 times 8 GB sticks of Ripjaws 5 RAM, dual channel, DDR4, works, reliable, fast, and it's grey, so it fits with the color scheme. So that's very nice. You can go for a full-on black and silver build, which looks absolutely amazing in my opinion. SSD also great. The OCC Tryon 150 480 gig. Most people won't buy this SSD because they don't really know about OCZ. It's under Toshiba now. It's a good SSD. I'm not gonna say anything. It's reliable and it works. My friend has this SSD for about a year now, and it's not failed. It's been extremely quick, extremely fast, and 480 gigs, $400. That's value right there. So do consider this. And for this price range, I'll recommend getting a 500 gig or 480 gig SSD anyway, because you can store a lot more stuff that way. So you can use a scratch disk, apps, OS, and maybe some other things that you like quick access to. I don't know what it may be, but yeah, 480 gigs definitely gives you a lot more flexibility when it comes to quick storage. And for big storage, I'm going to recommend a Seagate Barracuda. This is 2TB 7200 RPM hard drive from Seagate, as earlier mentioned, and it's good. Barracuda is good. I've talked about it before. It just works. So yeah, moving on. GPU wise, I'm going to recommend two GTX 1070 8 gigs WindForce OC video cards. Why? Because SLI is amazing. Two 1070s in SLI may give you a bit more headaches in terms of drivers and stuff, but the performance is unbelievable. It's gonna beat out the 1080 by quite a bit, although you can't really upgrade it, because with the 1080 you can throw in a 1080 in the future, but is there really a point? By the time you throw in another 1080, it'll probably be next year, so 1 or 2 more years from now you're gonna get a 1180 or something. There's no point. GTX 1070, two of them on the other hand, is gonna provide great performance. They're gonna consume a bit more power and produce a bit more heat than one 1080, but firstly, it looks amazing to have two GPUs in your system, and it just goes like, whoa, SLI. And secondly, sorry, there's some background noise. Secondly, the performance gains over 1080 is going to be great. And with DX12 going to give better support to multi GPU configs. This is definitely going to gain some performance with Vulkan and DX12. Okay, moving on. The case. I recommend getting this Fantex Eclipse P400S. This is the white one. There is the black one, and there are models with the window. I did not know why I chose the model without the window, because the window actually looks really sick. It's a clean looking case that's extremely easy to build in. Many reviews say it's a great case, so do check it out. This gets my recommendation. It looks great and it works great. So Fantex is a great brand for cases in general. So yeah, P400S, check it out. Pay more for the window, especially if you want to show off that 2 GPU setup. So for power supply, I'm going for the 650 watt 80 plus gold EVGA Supernova Hex. You can go for 750 watt power supply like here, but I went with a 650 watt power supply because they recommended me it. Basically, just get any power supply that fits you. In terms of power needs, 650 watts should be sufficient, because a power supply works best when it's running about 70 to 80% load, not 100, but not super low load, so that you can get maximum efficiency. So there you go, 650 watts EVGA next. Very nice. You can get 750 once again. I'm gonna reiterate that point because I'm as naggy as my mother. Alright, finally this is the ultra high-end build, which is the build meant for people who also want to dabble in some 3D modeling, rendering, video editing, more high-end C processor workloads, and it comes in at a total of $3,500 and may even go up if you want to change the CPU to an 8-core 6900K, for example. So 6800K is my recommendation because it's the cheapest Intel Extreme Edition from Broadwell, I think. Is it Broadwell? Yeah, it's the Broadwell Extreme Edition. It's not the Skylake Extreme Edition, which doesn't exist yet for some reason. Intel. Actually, I have no idea. I'm confused by Intel's naming system. But it's a good CPU. It's got great performance. It trumps the 5820K, and it's overclockable. So yeah, it's quite a bit power hungry, but it's going to give you great performance in things like video editing, rendering, 3D modeling, streaming, and opening many Google Chrome tabs, which is useful. So you can have like 50 videos running at once, and it won't even skip a frame. So you have to keep a CPU cool so that you can overclock it, and you can use it basically. Overclock it, keep it cool to help it last longer. So I recommend the Noctua NHD14. There's the NHD15, there's the NHU14S, which is smaller and less performing, but this is cheap and it's good and it works. Of course, if you're worried about RAM clearance, you want to have 128 gigs in the future, many more RAM sticks of RAM installed in your system in the future. Definitely, you may want to look at a more slimmer option like Noctua's NHU14S, but because of the sheer performance and silence of the Noctua heatsinks, it's going to be very, very useful, which is going to be helpful because if you are building a high-end system like this, chances are you're recording some sort of audio, and if you have an extremely noisy CPU cooler going, it's not going to help the production quality of your videos. So motherboard, I went for a cheap one, this X99A USB 3.1. I didn't go for the X99A2, which is the revamped version of this, because there's no point. There aren't that many other features on there that I would think is necessary to have. It supports the CPU, it supports overclocking, you can put your RAM in it, and it works. So that's all you need, and that's all I think you should get. Yeah, so RAM, 32 gigs, 4x8 gig sticks of Kingston Fury HyperX RAM. It's good, DDR4 2400 megahertz, and that's all you need. Of course, the pricing here is from this website that you may not want to purchase from, so you can consider shopping somewhere else. Just get the cheapest 32 gig kit that you think will look nice in your system, or you think from a reliable brand. You don't have to make it look nice, but come on, you're spending $2,000+ on a PC, might as well make it look pretty nice and decent. For GPU, for storage, I recommend getting a 480 gig SSD as usual, as earlier recommended, as well as a Seagate Barracuda 3TB hard drive for extra storage, so you can get that. So that you can store more videos and stuff, but of course you can fit in 4TB, 8TB, 16TB, 25TB. You can fit multiple hard drives. It's all up to you. You can even put it in RAID if you were worried about data loss. So Seagate Barracuda right there, it's good. I would say it's a good drive. There are other models, other brands, but this was the cheapest 3TB drive, so there you go. So for the GPU, I recommend the Gigabyte GeForce GTX 1080 8GB G1 gaming video card. So it's just now's card, but with an 8 instead of a 7, and it's good. That's what else can I say? It's gonna be powerful, and it's gonna be able to help you do your rendering and all that. And when you get it, why did I not recommend the Duo 1070 like just now? Because gaming performance isn't the most important if you're building a system like that, and one card is going to be much more silent than two cards. So if you're doing a bit more professional workloads that require audio recording, then the audio levels have to be turned down. So one card would be better than two. And of course, if you're spending that much money on your system, you probably have a tendency to spend a lot in your system in general, so you may upgrade to a 1080 Ti, the AMD Vega GPU, or maybe you'll get another 1080 for SLI in the future. This allows for a bit more future-proof upgrading. So in terms of graphic performance, it's worse than the last build I recommended, but I said this was a bit more professional focused. So it's a fast card, it's still going to give you amazing performance, and it's going to give you a bit more future-proofness and upgradability, because you only have one card right now. If you can wait, if you want to spend more, if you know you're going to spend more money in the future on your rig with a GPU upgrade by getting another 1080 or 1080 Ti, then what's the point of getting two 1070s now? Of course, and yeah, it saves power as well, so good for professional workloads because of silence and all the reasons I've talked about. Why am I rambling? I have no idea why I'm rambling. Don't kill me. For case, I'm going to recommend the Fantex N2 Pro HX Full Tower case, because it's a good brand, a good case with good features, and it looks decent. It looks professional as well, so if you're building this in a studio, it won't look out of place. Of course, if you want to save some money, you can go for the P400 like I recommended earlier, because that case is nice too, but this one just feels solid in my opinion. It just feels a bit more workstation-y and has a lot of hard drive storage, so if you need to stock up on the storage, this one will definitely allow that to happen. And finally, power supply. You don't want to get a crappy power supply in a workplace, so EVGA Supernova Nex 751 A+ Go gets my recommendation. It's good power supply with good ratings, good reviews, as well as good power delivery system, silent operation, fully modular. What else can I say? It's good. It's good. Totally modular, great PSU, blah 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 blah. So yeah, good power supply that will power the system sufficiently and work. And I guess that's it for my PC build guide for Christmas. So if you're looking into building PC for someone or yourself, which is more likely the case because before the Christmas discounts, or you want to treat yourself to a PC, these 4 lists are going to be my recommendations for the 4 different price ranges. And that's it for this video. I hope you guys found it helpful. If you did, like it. If you have any questions or you want to argue with me, go ahead in the comments. If you want to see more tech videos, there'll be proper reviews coming out in the future. Do subscribe, and if you want to see more guides like this, also do subscribe and share my videos. Definitely share your videos. Tell your friends to comment, like, and subscribe, and even if they don't want to watch it, just do it, because it helps out. Anyway, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and it shall end about now.